Shop Talk is back. With the support of LSETF, we're sat down with some young, brilliant entrepreneurs to learn the secret behind their success so that just maybe we can do the same thing. Chef, I've always wanted to speak to you. You're doing so many great things.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm good, you know? I'm actually really good. I'm in a really good space at the moment, you know?
I love that answer. Tell you why I love the answer, because usually you get like, I'm good. And I'm like, what does that mean? Because you've kind of already naturally dived into it. Like, I'm actually really good at the moment.
I am. I mean, I've come to terms with the fact that life is challenging, Nigeria is challenging, Lagos is challenging, right? And since I've come to terms with that, I'm not surprised anymore. You know, I deal with every single day as they come on, but I'm also thinking about the future constantly, and so I'm not worried about today just now.
How do you manage to do that? Like, keep your eyes on the future? Because I think Nigeria is a country where we tend to find ourselves in a situation where you're always trying to deal with today's trouble. You don't really have the time to fully plan out for the future.
I take some time away, you know. I actually even posted a few weeks ago saying, who else feels like they need to get out of town like every couple of days, every couple of weeks, you know? So I take some time away, you know. I go to the beach, you know, I spend some time with myself. Every week, I take one day to myself and I try to do absolutely nothing, to just be still, to meditate as much as I can, you know. And I trust my people to a certain level, to allow them, you know, do what they have to do, whilst I spend more time on the creative, you know, entrepreneurial process.
You said that you go to a place where you trust your team. How do you develop that with the team?
First of all, I mean, you kind of have to hire the right people, right? And then you sort of develop a relationship with them. Don't get me wrong, like, they can be annoying as hell, right? And I feel sometimes you feel like they're not doing enough, you know? But I remind myself, first of all, that I have to trust them. And trust that they have the best interest at heart, and give them the necessary direction, you know, that is required for them to deliver. Because as entrepreneurs, a lot of times we just expect our people to know what to do, when to do it, you know, but they're not in our minds. They don't have the same drive that we do. So we have to sort of lead by example sometimes and be patient, you know, and allow them, you know, grow into the role, and just be patient, really. It's really hard to say that, right? It's really hard because I think about how patient I have to like be, you know. I have to mentally remind myself to be patient, because look, this guy is not me. He can't do it just like me. And I can't expect that. It's kind of unfair to expect the same level of, you know.
A couple of people have said this to me now. You have to hire the right people. What mentality do you have to take in when you're hiring? Or what are you looking for when you're hiring people to know that I'm hiring the right person? Even if today things don't work out or tomorrow they're not where they are, what are you looking for in someone that lets you know that I've hired the right person for the long run?
So in the process of hiring, the first thing I look out for, and which is why at my organization I have to be a part of, even if it's a cleaner that they're hiring, I have to meet the person, is the personality. I hire personality over skill, right? Somebody could be really good at their job, but may not have the right mindset and the right personality to be able to execute, you know, on a long term. You know, skilled people most of the time come in with a certain mentality, you know, that I know what I'm doing already, and so I'm not necessarily going to learn much here. Okay, I want to learn. They say they want to learn, but you know, and I can always tell that from the first few conversations with the individual. But it's really about zoning in on who that person is, you know, outside of work, you know. So I go on their social media, you know, sort of turn into like a stalker to a certain level. Who are their friends? What they do for fun? You know, those type of things, you know, would tell me whether or not this. And there are different types of people. I don't hire the same kind of person, you know. So there's some people who are more more focused on desk work, and so I'm hiring them because of their desk ability. And then there are people who are more field guys, you know, and I'm hiring them because of their field ability, you know. And sometimes I only find that when I meet the person and I realize, you know, what kind of person that person is, and whether or not I have sort of space for that person on my team. And my team is ever growing, so
that's for me, it's a lot, because I realize that, you know, yes, a lot of people don't usually usually you think, okay, I need the best person for the job in terms of skill set, and you don't realize that once you hire someone, you've got that personality is going to affect the culture in your business. Going back and just kind of looking at how you really got into food, right? Because I think that culturally in Nigeria, we're only kind of really just getting to that place where we see the capacity with a lot of creative fields, right? Whether it's restaurant work, whether it's media and all those kind of things, where there's a lot more respect is being put on it. How was that journey for you, even deciding that that's what you wanted to do? What was it like for your family, kind of accepting that, choosing to support you in that? What was the journey like?
So mine was very organic. I didn't go into this thinking I wanted to be a chef or I wanted to go into food, right? I remember the process of getting into food being very organic in the sense that it already happened when I realized it was happening, but at the time when it became serious that this is what I wanted to do, my parents have always been very supportive of whatever it is that we want to do. I think also because a part of my family is very artistic, so the painters in my family, so like no one ever says, oh, you have to be a doctor or be a lawyer or whatever. The only thing is their advice, right? And my dad in particular, his advice was always just study business first and then zone in on whatever else it is you want to do, because clearly you don't want to be an engineer like me, or you don't want to be like a doctor or anything, So whilst you're still figuring that out, do a first degree in business and take it from there. And that's what I did. I studied international business management. And in the process of studying international business management, I found my love for food, and my love for food actually comes from a passion for entertaining. Right. I like to entertain people. I like to host people, and food is like my medium to do that. Right. And so in going to university, and sort of entertaining friends, having friends come over, having a little like house party, little barbecue. It was a lot of all those like barbecue cookouts, things like that. I found my love for food. And I also wanted to learn new things, right? So the first thing I sort of that took me down this direction was learning to make cocktails. Right. So I got a job as a bartender whilst I was in uni, and I started learning how to make cocktails. And behind the bar was the kitchen. And that was my first encounter with a professional kitchen. And just seeing the organized chaos in a professional kitchen and how it just looks like, how is a plate going to come out of this? Like, there are too many people involved in this, like how? But like when an order is called and the fact that the order is dealt with by different people and somehow comes together, at a pass is mind blowing for me.
What I mean, I just want to get an idea. What is that like, right, in a kitchen? Because I've seen it, I guess a window of it. When I was younger, I used to work as a barista. And so it wasn't like a Starbucks or something. So it was a bit of a bigger company, which means it was a bit more of a local coffee shop. They did different kind of things. And I'd get, like you said, I'd go into the kitchen and you were amazed by it. So I, on the other hand, was scared by these massive machines that looked like they could kill someone. So what is the energy like for you in terms of running a kitchen?
What is the what?
The energy like running a kitchen.
It's very high energy. It's very energetic. Like, it's very fast paced. It's like being on a roller coaster ride, right? And you have to think on your feet, and you have to listen, be attentive, use all your senses have to come to play, right? So you're smelling, and I can smell a mile away whether something is overcooked, right? And something's burning, you can tell, you can smell that, right? I can hear when the pan is not hot enough, all those little things are just like, it's almost like instincts in the kitchen. You get to a point where cooking becomes like an instinct, right? And it's almost like the food is talking to you and telling you, I need more, or like I need a little more, or I'm okay right now, take me out, type thing. So depending on what I am cooking and the sort of the environment I'm cooking in, the energy is very different. In my house, for example, I'm barefoot, right? I'm cooking, listening to Fela, you know, vibing, drinking some wine, you know. It's very like vibes, very chilled, right? But when I'm in my kitchen, it's very aggressive. It's like we're shouting, you know, well, I'm shouting and everyone is responding, you know, saying, yes, chef, no chef, you know, and, you have to keep the energy going. It's like, you have to, it's like being a coach, you know, on a in a football field, in a stadium, right? And your team has to hear you. Right? And you have to see them respond. They might not necessarily say it, but you have to see them respond. And so sometimes you're constantly driving them, because if they don't move quickly enough and one person comes and the other person isn't delivering on time, you know, everything can go to shits, right? So it's very, you know, energetic, very aggressive, very,
so
you know.
What role did, because cultivating this and turning this from a passion to a business, what role and how much help did you say? Because you said your dad got you to go do a first degree in international business. What role did that play, and has that played for you in cultivating a business out of a craft?
I mean, just going by what we've done so far, in comparison to any of the other brands or any of the other chefs in the country, I would say that studying international business management has definitely taken me many steps further, right? Just by the sheer fact of the fact that we have multiple brands running, right? You know, we're able to create products, you know, and convert that product into revenue, and not just revenue, but retaining revenue enough to make a profit. You know, I couldn't have learned that I couldn't have done that by just having a gift for cooking, which that's my gift, right? I can cook. But studying international business management, and not just, I already had a business sense, right? So studying international business management took it a step further and made me a little more aware about selling things and giving me sort of like a business mindset. So before I do anything or I release any product, I'm thinking about the longevity, right? I'm thinking about how far can I take this to? You know, is there a 10-year plan for this, right? Is it possible, even if I don't have the plan right now, it's possible to put together a 10-year plan for this? If I can't, then there's no point even going down that route, you know, rather than just having a passion for something and doing it and seeing how it goes. It doesn't work that way with me, right? It's not just about seeing how it goes. It's knowing from the very beginning that this has, you know, a potential, and then driving that potential, you know, to the very end.
One thing that you notice, or at least I noticed with different chefs, is everyone kind of picks their niche.
Yes.
You, on the other hand, have your hand in a lot of different parts. You know, you've got, there's Eros, you've got cookie jar. So you've got
fresh prep.
You've got, and then you've done concierge. You do international cuisine. You do Nigerian cuisine in a sense style. You do desserts. What is that like for you? And how does that change on the day-to-day? Being able to carry these, because like you said, I mean, in the kitchen, whether you're at home or in a restaurant, the vibe is different.
So I do have a niche, right? And my niche is experience, right? I just use different food products to execute it. Yeah. Right. So it may not look like I have a niche because it feels like, and I make drinks too, remember? So like if you go to the restaurant, the cocktails at the restaurants are like ridiculous, right? But my niche is really experience, you know? And so I create different products to deliver what my core is, which is an unforgettable culinary experience. You know, whether I am giving you something sweet, whether I'm giving you something liquid, whether I'm giving you a savory solid, you know, the fact is that I am delivering you an experience, right? And the experience would range from a delivery experience to a sit down experience to even a more elaborate, as we call it now, the Billionaire chef experience, where curated music, storytelling about the background of the food, you know, the curation process into as much as music and dance and, cultural representation of the food, you know, all just to be able to give you an experience.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about how you fuse those things. I mean, I understand there's the idea of knowing something, but then how do you take, I know how to cook, I know how to put things together, I know how to serve something on a plate, and bring these different vibes in terms of feeding something with the culture that you're coming from? Like, how does that happen, or what is the thought process like for you? Let's say let's look at Eros, for example. Just focus very much on Nigerian cuisine and how to bring a certain class to it. How do you then, what's your process? What's your thought process like in creating a dish?
So I usually come from a point of nostalgia, right? I always go back thinking, what did I used to like, or ask questions, ask my mother, older friends, uncles and aunties, questions about their upbringing, what they ate when they were growing up, or it could just be an ingredient that I am trying to work with, and I'm trying to think of all the different things that can be done with that ingredient. And then I find, once I have sort of an original base, which is the core of the ingredients, so let's take an example with suya. Right? And I'm thinking of all the different ways suya is served, suya being served with masa, people having suya and gari. And I'm now thinking about, I'm taking that experience and trying to sort of modernize it. My take with a lot of our Nigerian ingredients is usually a modernist take. So it's keeping it authentic, still making sure that when you taste and you take a bite of this ewa going croquette, which is now a ball, it's going to taste exactly like ewa going croquette. It's going to taste exactly like ewa going, I beg your pardon, right? But in my process of developing it, I have been able to find ways to play with your visual, to also play with your mind in the way it is structured, because once you've seen something and it doesn't look like what it's supposed to look like, your mind is already playing games with you. It's already telling your palate, expect the unexpected, right? And then the moment it hits your palate, the play on textures, the play on flavors, just takes you to another dimension. And for me, that is the experience, and there's also just the music behind it, so when I'm creating a space, it's not just about the food, it's about, the music, the way the people look, and all of that. It's sometimes not executed completely, the way I almost imagined it, but I think
that's the reality of life, right?
It is the reality of life, because there's some little elements of Eros that I look at today and I'm just like, not there yet, not there yet, not quite there. But I guess most people, you get the point, right?
And I think also, like, clearly you do multiple ventures, and it kind of gets the idea that you will continue to perfect it as your ventures go on.
Exactly.
I wanted to look, you talked about how when you're thinking of something, you say, what can I envision for this in the next 10 years, right? So when it comes to this, and from your experience, obviously, as a chef and with restaurants and things like that, when people are building a business, what questions do you think are essential that they begin to ask that for the potential of scaling up a company? Like, what questions do you think are important that you need to be able to answer today to know that your business has a future for 10 years later?
So first of all, who's the target audience, right? Is that target audience large enough to keep the product going? Who are the competitors? How easy is it for you to actually enter into the market and gain a reasonable enough market share? What is the most important of them all actually is, what is your USP, your unique selling point? What is going to make you any different from somebody else who is doing the exact same thing? It could be the exact same thing, but how is yours different? There has to be something different about it, and it has to be something notable. I ask this question sometimes to up-and-coming, food business owners, and I like to engage with them a lot because, my friends would say if I wasn't a chef, I'll probably be doing like branding, and I'll ask them, say, what is your unique selling point? And they'll say, oh, quality food. I'm like, that's not a unique selling point, because almost everybody would claim or would think that they're giving you quality or giving you great quality, so that's not good enough, So you have to have something that's unique to you that makes you stand out from the crowd, and honing on that. And that is now becoming the what you are constantly communicating, that is attracting people to you to compare with somebody else and choose you. The quality can now be what will keep them coming back. But the quality may not necessarily be what will bring them there first in the first place, because you're giving them, it's like plantain chip. How's your plantain chips any different?
Thank you very much. I'm always like trying to learn and understand a little bit more about this, because there's certain things that I think we need to always consider.
I even have, like, I would say I have typical example of what we're talking about right here, right now.
Please bring it my way. I also want to learn.
Okay, so
enjoyment.
A lot of us have heard of this brown cookie jar. It's been around for 9 years now. All right, undergone a rebranding process because cookie jar, as a matter of fact, had been around as a Parisian bakery. You know, that was the idea at the time. And as the brand grew and the market became more saturated, we had to keep asking ourselves, what is our unique selling point? What makes us different from anyone else? And for 3 years, I promise you, I couldn't figure it out. And then at a point, we started looking inwards. Okay, what are we doing with the other brands, right? And how is that any different from Cookie Jar? We found out that the other brands had one unique selling point in common, you know, our African essence, right? And so we started doing that with Cookie Jar. And I'm going to bring out a few things, right? The first thing I'm bringing out here is the kuli kuli. This is a cookie, right? But it's a kuli kuli white chocolate cookie. That is a unique selling point. Nobody else in the market is currently doing any product like this.
First, my most important question for when the bag came out is, am I going to eat this? But
yes, of course, of course. This is all yours, right? So that in itself is a unique selling point. It makes you intrigued to want to try it. How is kuli kuli now a cookie?
Yeah.
Right? And then when you try it, the quality. The you know, you want to try it right now?
Yeah, please. Let me not front myself here.
There you go.
Thank you very much. Whoa. If they told me this, yeah, I'd have brought a chef on many seasons ago. This is... I have to hold this thing for a while. This episode chill.
So that's one product, just to give you an example. I mean, you think, okay, that's far out. That's far out. Now, potato chips. You taste these potato chips and you would immediately tell a distinct difference between these chips and any other chips in the market. First of all, it has a unique sweetness, right, about it, right? And then they come in different flavors. There's suya, there's cinnamon brown sugar.
Hold on, suya potato chip.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go.
Yeah. This is the sweet one. So this is plain, right? Plain sweet potato chips. You know, put this back, and I want you to try this next.
Yeah.
This is your jar, so you can keep that, right? So just rip that right there.
We shall be well entertained and educated on the art of eating food today. Thank you very much. Sorry, hold on. All right. So talk to me. So you started to look at the market around you. Realize what other people's unique selling point is. And you started to now bring that into idea of your business.
So not what other people's unique selling points were. I don't really focus too much on what could I do with my product that no one else was currently doing, right? Or what could I do with my product that I was passionate enough to sell more than what anybody else is doing? So my unique selling points could be something that somebody else has, but hasn't pushed it as much. And I take that unique selling point and I drill into it enough for me to actually own it now as my unique selling, so much so that they will look at me, look at the other person and think he's copying.
Yeah. Okay. So when you're doing this, you're looking at this, you're looking at the ideas and different things that come to mind, right? What are key questions in pushing your product? Because I think that one thing, when people have businesses and they have fresh ideas, and maybe they come up with something valuable and great to see, right? But how do you make sure the next person, the people outside actually know about it? Let's say you're in early days, and you haven't got the personal traction or capacity to pull it out like you usually do. How do you make sure people get to find out about this brand? What's the best way to kind of start making yourself known, your product known?
Two ways: social media, word of mouth. Social media is obviously a great tool for putting products out, but then you would probably ask, what if I don't have 10,000 followers, 50,000 followers on my page? What happens then? You can promote your page. You can promote your content to people outside of your community, right? But it would now require you to create a good enough campaign, take great enough pictures and be able to coin the words following those pictures well enough to capture the attention of people. But that would not actually get your product into the market as fast as word of mouth will. If you have a great enough product with a unique selling point that people like, once they taste it, they themselves will become your ambassadors. So freebies. And this is how I started Cookie Jar 9 years ago. Literally from freebies. I bake a tray of cookies. I give out the whole tray of cookies for free. And I hope that those people will come back and buy at least one more pack. So for every 3 people that I give free, I am hoping for 1 to come back and buy, right? And if they don't come back and buy, they at least tell other people about it, which is in my own sort of mind, my marketing cost, right? So I remember that when I started, I would bake a set of cookies, right? And 1/3 of the cookies is for sale. 2/3 of the cookies is for free give outs. Because I know that those people, when they taste the cookies, at least one of them is going to come back and be my 1/3 from that tree. Right? And then it just keeps growing. And it grows to a point where you no longer have to give out free cookies. Enough people have tried the product to come back and, pay for it. And then it's just a matter of keeping the product quality, up to par, and then keeping them, intrigued enough by releasing something new. You have one cookie today, and in 3 months, you should be working to releasing your next cookie. Hopefully by that time, you've gotten enough people to try your cookie out, and that one is already sort of having a life of its own.
How important is it to push that mentality, that recognition, really, that you've got to, I guess we say a lot of things like you got to spend money to make money, but that realization that when you're doing something that you might think is for free and you might think is handing out money is actually the way to...
It's very much the way to attract. It's very much so the way to attract, and it's. I remember when I started and I would give out these freebies, and my mom would be like, "Freebies again? You're giving out freebies." But then guess what? The freebies turn to money because the people who you give freebies to feel like they have to give you something in return. So if they cannot afford to pay for the service, they will find somebody who will. They will constantly go out telling people, oh, you need to try this, or oh, you need to try this, or oh, you need to try this. And then obviously within all of these, you have friends and family, and those friends and family would most likely support you as well. So give them something for free and then let them go and spread the word and do the marketing for you. And trust me, people would buy more when somebody has told them that product is great than when they see something on social media. So it needs to go hand in hand, right? You can't just do social media and leave it there. You have to actually get people to try out the product. We're talking food product. If this wasn't a food product, if it was like clothing, for example, seeing somebody wearing something over and over again gives you assurance that if he's wearing this thing, it must be good.
So just because you brought up the idea of clothing, I want to go into your personal brand, because what is the duality of your personal brand, right, and the brand of your businesses, and where do they work hand in hand to help one another?
So my personal brand right now is called the Billionaire Chef, right, and the Billionaire Chef has really just again evolved organically. Right. I didn't wake up one morning and start calling myself this. People started calling me that. Before I even named like my Instagram, the Billionaire Chef, right? People were already referring to me as the Billionaire Chef. From the fact that, for example, Forbes had written this article saying the man who knows what billionaires eat for lunch, you know, and so Linda Kejid had written something a while ago about billionaires, something related to billionaires. And then just the fact that a vast majority of my customers or my clients are billionaires, right? And so the name Billionaire Chef came about. And what that has done is also sort of, it's almost like speaking into existence, right? And even as an individual now, I have to look in the mirror and ask myself, would a billionaire do that? Do you look like a billionaire? You know, like, what does this work? Like, you know, so there's that, and it has an effect on my brands because most of my brands are sort of luxury or affordable luxury. So, Eros and Gourmet is more on the luxury arm, right? But, Cookie Jar or Fresh Prep are more affordable luxury. There's a certain level of, what's the word now? Not anticipation, but what's that word for people who look up to something? Aspiration.
There you go, aspirational.
Aspiration. You know, so there's a certain level of aspiration that the brand gives to its followers or its fans or the people who are intrigued by it. And then there's also a certain level of relatability, you know. So billionaires, for example, feel like they can relate with the Billionaire Chef. But those who aren't are aspiring, you know, to either be a billionaire or to eat like a billionaire. Right? So it definitely has a positive impact. There is the sort of negative impact of, you know, people not able to relate. So there's a certain level of the clientele or people who can't relate. But I would not, those would not be my sort of target audience as the Billionaire Chef, right? But in terms of the other brands, they all have to sort of live up to the expectation. And you know, they have to make billions. You know, every single one of them has to clock their billion at some point.
And so how do you, what does it come in when you, you know, as an individual, right, deciding how much your brands or the brands under you need to reflect you, and also kind of being able to step and set yourself apart from it so that your brands can grow outside of you? How does that work? Building that, you know, kind of walking that tightrope of learning that I want my brands to carry my essence, but at the same time not be so attached to me that people can relate to my brand even if they feel like they can't relate to me.
So, very thin line, to be honest. You know, I have to be there enough, but be away enough. So again, this is where the people that I hire come in. And why I have decided to go down the line of hiring brand managers, so that those people are sort of the heart and soul of the brands. So every single brand, Cookie Jar, Fresh Prep, Eros and Gourmet, Eros, all have brand managers. As a matter of fact, even the Billionaire Chef, you know, also has a brand manager, right? And those people have the brand's a brand identity, the brand's vision, the goals and the mission of the brand at heart. You know, it's their day to day. They wake up in the morning and they think the brand first, right? And for me, what I have to do, my job is to communicate my vision to them so that they can execute, right? And then to step back enough so that the brand can grow on its own and not rely too much on me being there. So, for example, my restaurant, I'm there less than 50% of the time, you know, that it's open. And it has gotten to a point now where the customers now trust the brand manager to be the one to ensure that they have a great experience, or even just the supervisor or the waiters on the floor. You know, Eros and Gourmet caters events without me. I don't have to be at an event for it to be 100% success, you know, and that came from me having to step away. And also because I also have the international market as my next, you know, that's where my eye is. So I'm here less than I was before. And so I'm giving room for my brand to grow on its own and have its own identity.
How often would you say that people need to kind of relook at the vision in terms of recalculating? Maybe something needs to change or things are adapting in the vision of a business. How often would you recommend that people actually step back and look? I know that you mentioned it happening.
So every year, to be honest, every year you sort of need to review and you have to revisit your brand and see, you know, if your vision still aligns, if it's still sort of where you want to go, because things change. You know, there's product learning involved. Over the years, you're learning about your product and you get to a point where you thought, you know, you had initially thought your product was going to be somewhere, and in that year, things have happened and your product is on another level, and you have to grow, you know, your vision to that level. So it's a yearly review as far as I'm concerned, and it's something that we do at the start of every year.
And so peculiar years happen, COVID has happened, and the last year and a half have been crazy, and they've affected businesses in different ways. What kind of ways have you had to pivot or guess to adjust to the market today, and what kind of things do you think people need to start to consider when circumstances like this happen, or pre-consider, you know, before something like this happens again?
I was looking around right now because there's one product I asked for them to deliver to us so we could, because I knew this question was going to come up, and I think they've been calling because they're around right now. Fresh prep is the answer to that. When we heard that COVID was coming and we knew what's going to happen, right? Myself and my team started thinking about what we're going to do, right? How are we going to be able to, you know, meet that curve, you know, and not bend or fold, you know? And so we put all our cards on the table, you know. As a matter of fact, we started spending money on research and development. We spent money on creating business plans, you know, around COVID, you know, living, you know, situations. One of the things that we did was, which we didn't have before, was a delivery arm. You know, we didn't have a delivery arm to our restaurant, and now we have a delivery arm to our restaurant, which is another entirely new, different revenue stream, right? Then we also found out that people were at home and cooking, you know, now more than they were before. You know, back in the day, you would go out for lunch, you order, you know, all of that. But now you're at home all day and you're not necessarily earning as much as you used to. So you can't really be ordering food in all the time. And so people started looking to cook at home. And then the stress of, you still have your day job, you know, and remember that people working from home, the hours are very warped, you know, there's really almost no break time, no resumption, no closing. It's just like, I got to get the work done and I'm working almost all day, you know, and so they had less and less time, you know, you think that being at home, you have more time to cook, right? But you found that our research found that people had even less time, you know, to cook. You know, and so we created a product that bridged that gap. Plus the fact that you couldn't go to 3 different supermarkets to buy all the things you need to make one recipe. So we created a product called Fresh Prep that puts everything you need in a box. So we create recipes and you have all the ingredients already sort of measured to, you know, scale so that you can cook in 10, 15 minutes, food is ready. We also took it a step further by not just, again, what is our USP? We've looked around and realized even in Nigeria, there are 1 or 2 other people who are already doing this, who started doing this recipe thing. And so we wanted to take it a step further and have a unique selling point. And so we created prepped groceries, right? Which is having groceries that has already been, you know, marinated and vacuum sealed so that you can just slap it on the grill, throw it in a pan, you know, put it on in water, and in a few minutes, you know, food is ready, literally. So it's cutting down your cooking time by more than half and also reducing the stress of going to multiple places to get the ingredients you need, you know, and then also giving a certain level of standard. So we found that even some of the customers that buy from us regularly have chefs at home, you know, and they're buying these prepped groceries to standardize the taste in their house because their chef one day will decide that the food is going to be salty. Tomorrow, they're going to decide that it's going to be very spicy. So it's just like, you know what, I don't want you to mess my lamb up. I don't want you to mess my chicken up. I'm just going to order fresh prep, have it in the freezer, and whenever you're ready, just defrost it and You can do a variety of things with it. You can grill it, you can fry it, you can roast it, just different things. So for us, we're able to create a new sort of business, two new business arms out of, the pandemic. And then also even the Billionaire Chef as well grew from that process, because I realized that I was going to every single event and I wasn't really charging for my time, because my brands are gotten to the point where clearly they can cater on their own. So if I'm going to an event, what am I going to the event to do? So not only am I charging you for me to attend your event or for me to be at the event, I'm bringing extra value that my team can't, right? Which is the entertainment. I curate music or a playlist, I do some storytelling, I do a nice introduction and something that really gives you a memorable culinary experience.
That kind of brings me to a question that I wanted to ask you, which is, a lot of the time I hear people, when they talk about setting their business and setting a business up, they'll talk about how, I have this product and it's amazing, I cook this differently and no one else can do it. And it gives the idea that, without me, your business can't survive. Now, you're talking a lot about how you build the brand identity elsewhere from that. How important is it for people to recognize being able to separate yourself from the business and let your business be able to stand alone, so that people don't think that once you're not there, effectively, there's no more Eros because the person that cooks it is not there again?
Extremely important. Especially if you are thinking of scaling up or bringing any investors on board. There's something called a key man risk. I don't know if you've ever heard of a key man risk, right? A key man risk pretty much means that there is one person in that business that without that person, the entire business is at risk. So if you remove that person from the business, then you're buying nothing. So how am I going to give my money to a business that when one person is taking out, the business crumbles? I remember trying to sell one of my brands a few years ago, and when we're bidding, right, where we're negotiating, I was negotiated downwards because of a key man risk or a perceived key man risk. And at the time I did have that key man risk. And so what I've had to do is step back and it's taking time, it's taking time to gradually step back from each and every one of these brands, to allow them stand on their own. So no investor can come in and think without Eros, the business can run, right? And it's shown in me being away for as long as 3 months at a stretch, and everything still runs exactly as though I was here, and I think every businessman who is looking to scale up their business or bring, investors on board needs to constantly think about, am I creating a key man risk?
That's awesome. Oh, there you go.
There we go. So this is that product that I was telling you about. I don't know what's in here. Oh, this is the sample. So we're sampling suya pepper right now.
Sweet, something to eat from us here when I get here.
Yes, this is a slightly different type of suya pepper, as this one has kuli inside of it. So it has a nutty element to it. It's sweet, slightly spicy, but also has like a hint of sweetness from a little bit of brown sugar. I want to rip this open now so we can see what's inside this. This is actually for you. So it's unfortunate that we're having to open it here. I should have let you do the opening, Sha, but it's okay. All right, so yeah, they have to do all this sealing because COVID taught us a lot about like hygiene and all of that, right?
Yeah, I think also learned a lot of how affected restaurants with recipes and stuff like that, and how much attention to detail.
So this is a small box that has just a few things that I selected for you. All right, the first thing here is chicken.
And I can see it's seasoned.
Yes, it's seasoned, marinated. So it has aromatics, garlic, ginger, onions. You can see a little bit of chili in there as well. So it's some black pepper, some salt. It's beautifully marinated. And the great thing is you pop this in your fridge overnight. By morning, it's defrosted, and you can grill with it. If you're in a hurry to defrost, because it's vacuum sealed, you just throw that into some warm water. In a few minutes, it's completely defrosted. You open this, you throw this in your grill. And if you go on the website, there are recipes of what you can do with this. Right, and this for you as an entrepreneur or as a businessman or as a full-time employee or employer, you come home, you don't have time to go through, the entire process of marinating chicken, all of that.
Yeah.
You just open this, throw this in the grill, go into your room, change, do other things, come back. When you're done, throw on some barbecue sauce over it. And then if you want like a nice spicy finish, drizzle some chili oil over it and done.
In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to record myself after I've done all this process and eating it, and
so you get a bunch of like proteins, pre-cut vegetables, oils and spices and stuff.
So that people can see the name.
Yeah. So that's that. There's still some snacks in here, actually. This is kuli kuli. And you see, we always do everything differently. So, typically you get like really hard. You know what kuli kuli is like? It's really hard. And do you want to try this one?
I'm gonna wait on it because I think that
And then we have some peanut bars
see
too.
that I'm such a grobido when they come on watching.
And then I think we have something for your viewers too. For a viewer, I don't know how you're gonna give that away.
Okay, this is sweet. This is great. Okay, so there's a 20,000 naira Eros voucher, right? And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a giveaway when this episode airs. As soon as you see this, we're going to do a giveaway on social media, and we're going to let you know the best way to win this. And then also make sure you send me pictures while you're there so that we know. And tag at ShopTalk as well. All right. Yep. This is awesome. This as a, please, yeah. I'm even taking continual marketing tools because the way you have come here, you have shown us how to market brand. You've shown us how to talk about, you're talking business, you're talking ideas, and you're also showing natural illustrations of how to actually work in business.
As an entrepreneur, when you're moving around, I feel like you have to move with your brand. You know? So I feel like, I don't want to say this on camera because I'll get jumped, but at every point in time, I have a representation of my brands with me. So if you wanted to sample a product, I might be able to open my boots and, grab something.
I know whenever I see you. Hello, I was just thinking, I've been hearing a lot about this and I just want to try it out, see how it
How about it's finished? How about you're a bit too late?
I just opened my boot and gave it to the last person I was talking to. But yeah, that's a great tip and revelation for people to actually consider. Because I think a lot of the time, and I've had this myself, so from experience, you get asked for something, you're like, oh, can I get back to you later? And it's always good to have the answer at hand when you're talking to prospective investors. You don't know where you're going to meet the person that you were hoping to meet when it comes to building and growing your brand. You're talking about the importance of being able to separate yourself from your brand sometimes when you want to talk about scaling. Other things to consider when you want to scale your business.
Well, I mean, the other things to consider, hell yeah. A lot of other things to consider when you're going to scale your business. So if you had products, for example, and you needed to export your products, you'd need to first register with specific agencies. So you'd have to be thinking about NAFDAC, you have to be thinking about like the export commission, you'd have to be, getting your necessary, registrations done. You probably need to be a limited liability company as opposed to just a business name. I always advise you, when you're start as just a business name. Don't jump into being a limited liability company so you don't have to do your all the necessary taxation, your yearly audits and stuff as a limited liability company. When you're sure that your idea is bringing in money after your first year, then you can convert it into a limited liability company and then do all the necessary registrations, trademarking and all of that. Once you've done that, then you can start to sort of push it out there, and get it into the stores, but aside from, registrations, obviously you need some legal backing. So you don't get in trouble, you don't get sued. So the right registration, some legal backing, solid branding is key. So a lot of what you're seeing now in terms of Cookie Jar is actually still very sample. So these are all sample packs, right? Because we're still in the process of branding the new Cookie Jar. So Cookie Jar is now an African boulangerie. an adult dessert parlor, right? And so the packaging is still being worked on and we're still producing a lot of that. But I never let that stop me, right? And that's something that I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs need to learn is don't wait until it is perfect. Don't wait until it is all ready and packaged. There's a lot of learning that you are going to undergo during the process of sampling. You know, even if you put it inside a nylon for starters, get it out there, because you see your necessity is going to become the mother of invention. You're going to find different ways to create your product. You know, you might always have this idea, it needs to be in this particular type of pack. What if that pack is impossible to find and you spend the next year looking for the pack, you know? But if you have a product that you're already selling, people are already asking you for the product, you are going to find something in your house that will work for you. And before you know it, you're like, this product has a home already. Why was I stressing so much about this particular pack? You know, so get it out there as soon as possible. It doesn't have to be ready. People want to see the organic process of the brand growing. They want to see and be like, oh, I remember when it was in nylon bag. Now it's inside this very cute jar. Do you understand what I'm saying? So
you're like, this person has leveled up.
Yes,
leveling up with
them. Exactly. And they feel a part of your journey. And then I found that a lot of entrepreneurs make the mistake of saying it needs to be perfect, it needs to be ready, it needs to be this, it needs to be that. By all means, you know, be ready yourself. You know, so get a logo done if you have to, you know, but when I started Cookie Jar, literally I drew a smiley. And then I went on PowerPoint and created that same smiley and printed it on paper and used glue to stick it to my packaging. Did that stop my product from selling? No. Before I now got to the point where I could pay a printer to print me 100 or 1,000 copies of my logo, which I can then now put on a pack. But that doesn't mean it's the end. So your product is going to constantly keep growing. So why wait until it is quote unquote perfect?
Yeah. And also because often you will find that when you're waiting for perfection, you don't meet it. And then you never get to the point where you're confident with your product. Exactly. And your product sits on a shelf while other people are doing it. Any other wisdom nuggets that I think, and I'd like to ask this with everyone, 3 great golden nuggets that you'd give to anybody starting a business today that you haven't yet given so far?
That's like the easiest. I feel like you hear this all the time, right? Especially when you say 3. Think big, start small, grow fast. It's as simple as that, right? But let's put that aside because let's call that one, right? The second thing is make sure whatever you're doing, you love yourself. You know, make sure whatever you're doing comes from your heart. You actually love the product and can use the product. You know, one of the hardest things is for somebody to create a product that they don't enjoy. How then do you know if the product is really that good if you can't even enjoy
sample it yourself?
Exactly. Like if I didn't have a sweet tooth and I am doing all of this, like, you know, it's sort of a waste of time because I'm never going to be able to convince people enough, you know, speak confidently enough about it if I haven't really tried it as much, you know. And the third thing I would say is don't be afraid to fail. Failure is a part of the process to success. You know, if I don't fail, then something is wrong. You know, I feel like I need to fail so that I can use that as a benchmark for what I cannot be. You know, so when somebody calls me or sends me a message about a complaint, right? For me, that is my next training program. Is how do we ensure what led to this complaint and what are the processes we have to put in place, you know, to ensure that that doesn't happen again and be prepared for it to happen again, especially in a country like Nigeria. Because your staff turnover is so high that you're going to have to keep training over and over and over and over and over and over again. So it never stops. In my business now, for example, one of the new hires that we have that resumes in a few days is, you know, someone we call a HRBP. And what the person is doing is focused on training. Your full-time job is literally getting people together to train them. Whether you are telling a manager that I need 2 hours of your time to train these people for 2 hours. And literally, because it has become continually important for us to train. And it's not just the new people. Even the old people need to be reminded on the importance of why we do certain things the way we do them. Because sometimes you forget. It just becomes, you feel like, oh, you don't even remember why you do it. And because you're not on the receiving end, right, you don't really feel the impact of, what you're doing, and this is one of the reasons why I always say, like, the waiters need to taste the food. If they can't taste the food, how are you going to be able to tell them what it tastes like?
Because I feel like sometimes we go places and you can kind of get the vibe when you ask someone what's good on the menu and they don't really.
And they're saying everything. I'm just like, yeah, right, everything.
So the one thing that I just want to finally kind of close up on is how, when you're in the service industry, how important is it? Because you already talked about staff, is customer relations and building your staff for that. And how do you, what is it like? You said you had such a high turnover. What is it like making sure that no matter what your turnover is in terms of staff, that your people are ready to give your customers the kind of service that is required to bring people back to your brand?
So the question is, how do
you build good customer service with the staff with high turnover?
Training. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I want to say, like, how married people always say, a happy wife, a happy house.
I can testify to it, man.
So think that your employees are like your wives. You have many wives. You have to be very diplomatic. You have to make sure that they feel loved. They feel taken care of. You check on them. My way here, for example, I called somebody who had been away from work for, a few days. How are you? Is everything okay? Just those little things, they go a long way, And, the little things you can do to keep them happy. I remember when we started, we couldn't afford to, give people staff food because we're so many. We're over 50, But over the years, over the last year and a half, we've gotten to a point where we said, you know what? At the time when we started, we couldn't. Then a few months in, we said, okay, we can do 2 days a week now, Saturday and Sunday. Then about just before COVID, we increased it to 4 days a week. We do Thursday through to Sunday. About 2 months ago, we increased it to every single day of the week. So now we give staff meals 7 days a week. It makes a difference. HMO, health, pensions, bonuses, recognizing the people who are pulling their weight. Literally before I came into this interview, I just approved a salary review for about 10 different people, including an executive director. My mom, for example, is an executive director who has been in the company for many years, but has been receiving the same pay for a while, And, using her as an example, I thought to myself, because remember, we had sent the review into our office for her signature, and then she pointed out the fact that she had not been reviewed in like a few years. And I was like, oh, you have to ask for the review, And then I thought to myself that, no, she doesn't have to ask for the review, actually. I have to recognize that this person is doing enough for me to review the person's salary, because not everybody is going to ask. And my mom is one of those people who's not going to put any pressure on you. She already can see the numbers and knows that, I don't want to take away from, the little that we have left, because running a business like ours is extremely, extremely expensive, So, it's very, very cost heavy, So, but you have to, as an employer or an entrepreneur, you have to recognize the talents that you have and, call a spade and ask yourself, if I was that person, can I earn the salary and be all right with it? So how do you expect them to stay?
Yeah. Thank you so much. I honestly, like 10 questions just came into my head, but I'm just like, let me respect time. Let me just respect time. Thank you so much.
I've had such a good time talking to you today.
I've really enjoyed it. It has been dope. And I ate. So, of course, I enjoyed it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.